This is Max Davis, and you're doing what are you doing, Max?
Level 3 carpentry.
Carpentry and joinery, yeah? Okay, so Max, we're going to discuss through some questions and answers in Unit QCF 219V2, confirming work activities, resources for an occupational area in the workplace, yeah?
Okay.
So my first question is 1.1. Identify work activities, assess required resources and plan the sequence of work.
Okay, so I'd be given a task to do, for example, hang a door. I'd then assess what I need, some raw materials, tools, and I'd plan how I would carry out a work.
Okay. 1.2. Identify work activities and formulate a plan for their own sequence of work. So you've identified what you need to do and you're planning ahead. So what are you going to do then?
Do a risk assessment before you start and plan how you're going to be going about the job.
Okay. 1.3. Explain the different types of work relative to the occupational area. So, for instance, you're a carpenter, and could you tell me about different things carpenters do?
So if we're doing first fix, it could be floor joists, or roofing, something.
Maybe fitting kitchens, stuff like that?
Yeah.
Okay. 1.4. Explain the methods of assessing the resources needed from a range of information. So you've been given a job sheet.
Yeah.
Maybe you might be given this maybe the day before. So you have to, look at what resources you might need, Max.
Yes, you could have a drawing or a specification of what you're going to be doing.
Okay. And what about if you needed to order materials? Would you do that in advance, or?
Yeah. Make sure that it's coming for when you need it, not during the middle of a job.
Okay. And it says here you get them from a range available in information. So what might be available information for if you were to go into a job and there's different things to be done? Where would the information be, you might think? Would your supervisor give it to you, or would you get it from somewhere else?
Yeah, my supervisor would give it to me. Tell me what I need to do.
Okay. 1.5. Explain the required information and the different methods used to prepare a work program relative to the occupational area, which is your area. So you have to think in terms of you're going to do a project or a task, and there might be some sort of program in relation to that. Maybe there's a time scale on that.
Okay, yeah. So you'd see when you're starting a job, when you're projected to finish the job, what deliveries are coming, what jobs are following, your work, stuff like that.
Okay. The next few questions are about clarification and advice where the resources required are not available, yeah? Okay. So say it's 2.1, seek advice and clarify from appropriate sources and on resources available where alternatives could be used. Maybe you're doing some first or second fixing, and maybe the exact thickness of wood for partitions isn't available, so you'd have to think of another way to do the job.
Yeah.
What would you do approximately, Max?
I'd call my supervisor, explain the problem to him, and see if he can give me guidance on another solution.
Okay. 2.2. Explain the different sources and methods that can be used to obtain clarification and advice when required resources are not available. So you've mentioned that you could get clarification from your supervisor. Let's say at that time your supervisor wasn't available.
Okay.
What about head office, or?
Yeah, I could phone him or text him. I could speak to another supervisor or somebody else who would have an idea on
as
Oh.
a guideline.
Okay. 3.1, assess progress of work against project requirements. It says taking into external factors. So let's say you need to assess the progress of the work. So in a sense, how would you do that? How would you think it's going? How would you sort of assess how the job is progressing?
So you'd see how much time you've spent on it and how much work you've got done in that time.
Okay. So let's just say that other occupations are working there. Maybe the customer is there, maybe the architect is involved. Do you think you might need to talk to them?
Yeah, see if they're happy with how it's going. If anything else needs to be done.
Okay. Resources, 3.1b. What about weather conditions in relation to tools, drawings and materials? Say for instance you're working outside, Max, and it starts to rain and everything is getting wet. What would you do?
Everything, so tools, drawings, inside, work may be delayed for a while until it stops.
Okay. Have you ever gone on a job when there was very bad weather conditions or snow or anything like that? Can you think of anything that happened on that line?
No, work got suspended.
Okay, work got suspended, yeah? Okay. 3.1d, health and safety requirements. So you're on a job and are you doing a task? What are the health and safety requirements that you need to do?
So you'd have to wear all your PPE, know whether or not it's a hazardous substance, anything along those lines.
Okay. 3.2, explain different methods of evaluating work activities against the following project requirements. For instance, it says 3.2a, contract conditions. Have you come across or worked on any job that might have contract conditions? Have you come across anything like that?
Yeah, so some contracts you may not be able to work past certain hours or before certain hours.
That's very true. Like for instance, you could be in somebody's house and there may be restrictions on the time you get there and finish and that. Yes, I absolutely agree with that. What about the contract program? So I suppose we can relate that to if you go into a job and you have X amount of time to finish that. So what do you think the contract program is? This is 3.2b.
So how your contract works,
Okay.
what sort of things you've got within the contract.
Okay. Okay. How about health and safety requirements of operatives? So I suppose that's health and safety requirements of you and anybody else now.
Yeah.
3.2c. So talk a little bit about that, please, Max.
So we'd be expected to wear PPE, make sure the working space is clean and tidy, there's no trip hazards. If we're using hazardous substances, it's in an open area and it's not confined.
Okay. 3.3. Evaluate the requirements of significant external factor that could affect the progress of the work. I suppose we're talking here about weather conditions. That's one, yeah?
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that. The weather conditions, say you went on a job and the weather turned out very bad. Do you think that might affect the progress of the work?
Yeah. For example, if it's snowing really badly or raining badly, and you left your timber out, your timber would start to bow and swell. If you left your tools out or you was working with them in weather like that, they could get faulty.
Okay. 3.3b, special working conditions. What might that be, special working conditions? I suppose special working conditions could be. What do you think a special working condition might be? I suppose it may be if you were in working in an area where you couldn't make much noise.
Okay, yeah.
So, what do you think that might be?
So somewhere near residential, can't make a lot of noise before and after certain hours. Can't have a lot of waste laying about.
Okay.
Stuff like
Okay. 3.3d, other occupation and people. So when you're working on your own project, what about other people who might be around you?
You might have other trades around you, you might have a supervisor around you, you've got to keep a clean workspace, so there's not a lot of pollution, a lot of trip hazards, got to be considerate to the other people.
Okay. What about, this is 3.3e, resources. What about resources in the workplace? We'll have to basically tell me a little bit about resources and where you might get the information from about resources.
There might be signs up or posters saying about them, from a toolbox talk,
Okay.
an email or something like that.
Okay. 3.3f, health and safety requirements. So health and safety requirements on a project. So first you said you would do a risk assessment, yeah?
Yeah.
If you do a risk assessment and you find that after doing it, there are things that needed to be changed or adjusted to make things safer, what would you do, Max?
I'd contact my supervisor about it and get them things changed so that the job is safe for me to do.
Okay, so and one more. Why do you think it is important to do a risk assessment?
To minimise the risk of injury.
Okay. 4.1, determine work activities that have an influence on each other, yeah? So you were doing some first fixing, yeah? Or you're doing a task.
Yeah.
Do you think, what about other people, other trades? Do you think that has an influence on what you might be doing?
Yeah, so if we was doing a bathroom floor, the plumber would need to get in after to fit the toilet or the bath. So we'd need to be on time with our work so that they can get theirs done.
That's very true, yeah? 4.2, evaluate which work activities make the best use of available resources in relation to, for instance, the occupations and the customers. So we're talking really about making the best use of available resources. So what could you tell me about that?
So if you're cutting a bit of timber and there's a bit of waste, could it be reused?
Okay.
Anything like that.
Yeah, that's very true. So 4.2a, occupational or customers associated with the work. So do you think it's important to communicate with the customer?
Yeah, to find out exactly what they want, what sort of timescale they'll want it done in, things like that.
Okay. 4.2b, tools, plant, or ancillary equipment. Can you talk a little bit about that, please? For instance, if you're using tools or plant, do you think that might have that has any influence there on each thing that you might be using?
Yeah, if you're hiring tools or plant equipment, you need to make sure they come on time for the job, and that you can use them.
Okay, we're going to pause this now
Okay.
at 4.2a, and the time is 15.14.